We delve into the heart of what truly matters, our families. Healthy families make healthy societies. I'm Randy.
And I'm Leslie. We're diving deep into the powerful insights of Dr. Randy's groundbreaking book, The Family Legacy: Shaping Culture from the Inside Out.
Hear inspiring stories and strategies to transform your family. We'll explore topics like communication, forgiveness, healing, parenting, marriage. We'll cover it all.
We'll have provoking conversations with experts, coaches, and real-life families who are benefiting from intentional family building.
This podcast isn't just about theories, it's about tools that you can implement today.
We all come from families, so this podcast is for you.
Join us on this incredible family journey. Subscribe now as we learn to do family as God designed.
Transforming families one episode at a time. Remember, whoever wins the family wins the culture in the end. Let's go.
Hi, welcome back, families. Transforming Families, that is. It's Randy and Leslie. I'm Randy.
I'm Leslie.
We're excited today. Again, we always say excited because it truly is. We live in a state of excitement, mostly. We have a family expert segment today, and we've got one of our friends on, and we are so excited. We're going to even try something new today. We're going to join a couple of podcasts together. He has a very popular podcast. I'll let him tell you more about that. But why don't you introduce our guest today and we'll get running.
Yeah, Jason Clark, I love this. His title here is a relational theologian. He's a storyteller who writes to reveal the transforming kindness of the love of God. He's authored several books, including Leaving and Finding Jesus, great read, and Prone to Love. He is the lead communicator at A Family Story. His website, afamilystory.org, you can find down in the description of this podcast. He's also co-host of Rethinking God with Tacos
What a great name.
podcast. He and his wife, Karen, live in North Carolina. They have 4 children, Ethan and Ava, and Madeline, who's married to Joseph. And there's one more. That you have 4.
I think you got it.
Do we get everybody?
Yeah,
Is Joseph the 4th child now? I think
Okay.
so. All right. Welcome.
Yay.
Hey.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, good to see you.
I tell you what, one thing for sure, every time we get together with Jason and his bride, it's fun.
It is always.
I think one of his titles, he's a relational theologian, but this family is fun. They're great to be around. Good to have you with us today.
It's good to see you guys. It really is. And yeah, we get to connect. We have a mutual connection through the Appleyards, which is how we met. You're right. We have a good time. Last time was actually a wedding, an Appleyard wedding.
That's right.
So
beautiful.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys
out there on the horse ranch. And
yeah,
it's great. Well, here we are. Tell us, we like to get started first. Can we ask you a few questions? Is that all right?
Come on, let's do this.
All right. Well, we always start with this because it matters to us.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us just a little bit about you and your family.
So you got it. We're in this transitioning stage. We have 4 kids now because my daughter, our oldest, got married last year. So we're in that. We can see the empty nest from here, but they're still in and out. Last night, in fact, they live right around the corner, Joseph and Madeline. And they got us, all of our kids got us a pizza oven. And last night they were all over. And there's a pizza hat that goes with it, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
And it's the #1 pizza chef. So when I opened it up, they gave it to me first at Christmas. I opened it up and I thought this was some gag. And so I was playing along like, oh, I got this pizza hat. And then a little later, there was the pizza oven. So
how about that?
But
I'm marginally jealous about that. I think I have to add that to my.
It's amazing. We did last night. We went to a pizza joint that makes really good pizza. We bought the dough from them, which it was a learning curve, and yeah, it's great. But we have 4 kids. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been here almost 20 years. My wife and I are celebrating 29 years this coming August.
Wow.
We've got a ministry in this area under the Family Story, which, I mean, the simplest thing, guys, and you're running at this, but if it isn't family, it isn't kingdom. That's the model that Jesus gave us, and I know we're going to talk about that. And that was burning in me years and years ago. We started the nonprofit or the ministry about 10 years ago, and it's all about creating media content that's catalytic for an encounter. So I'm a writer, work on whether it's books or other people's books, or it's films or documentaries. And then we have this podcast that we launched a few years ago called Rethinking God with Tacos, where we do our best to have a better thought about them today than we had yesterday. And we do it with guests, and we're diving into the best thought you had about them yesterday can be trumped today. Like it is the invitation to a measureless love that's expanding beyond time and space. And so that's what we do in the podcast. And man, we're having a lot of fun on that. And so, like you said, there's a bit of two things happening right now. I'm going to be on your podcast, and then we'll shift a little bit, and I'm going to ask you some more questions for our podcast.
Man, I love it. And this is probably some of the most important information I'm going to divulge right now. Jason is a former rock star. I'm not joking.
Without the star part. Go ahead.
Okay, it was Christian rock star. Let's be honest. But the creativity that you have, I mean, it's just evident. It always has been, from what I understand, from musical to a writer to a host to a number of the projects you have that are super. Just give us if you can talk about them. If you can't, that's fine too. But just give us a couple of minutes smattering us just some of the things you have your hands on. I want people to understand just the scope of which that you're rolling.
Well, I'm a right-brained world, and I'm a right-brain guy in a left-brain world. First of all, so I'm almost 50. I am a creative. I went to Bible college and literally graduated and said, I can't make that suit fit. I started a band, and we played clubs, and that got me in trouble with the church, because that was before it was cool and allowed for Christians to go into the clubs a little while ago. But I was always involved in worship, led worship at a lot of different churches. And then kind of took that skill, realized that as a creative, oftentimes there's a starving next to the artist component. And the larger my family grew, the more I had to figure out how to participate in that left-brained world. And that's when I really shifted and began writing more. That's a solo project. You can do that on your own. You also don't have to go to clubs and bars and be on the road and sleep in RVs and all the rest of that stuff. So then we did that. And I've been writing for probably the last 15 years. But you can see we got guitars in the background. And then so writing some of my own books, which I'll share a little bit about that. And that's more theologically based, but it's all narrative driven. It's all relationally connected. And then I have a production company with my brother. While I was chasing down film, he was chasing down film. And in the last 10 years, him and I have partnered on many projects, whether they're documentaries in which we got to travel the world for a documentary called The Presence, where we interviewed folks like the Helsers, just incredible folks from around the world.
Nice.
And we've done documentaries. When Ebola hit, he went into Sierra Leone, and when everyone was coming out, told that story. We're working on some more narrative-driven projects right now. We've got some screenplays that are kicking around, and then we've got a project that we are in the process of beginning with Angel Studios, which we've talked a little bit about. It's so in the beginning stages that I won't jump into the details, but there's a lot of fun things that I get to participate in. It's been a lot of fun.
I just want to say, for those of you, I can't highly recommend Jason's books enough. He is a relational theologian, but don't let that throw you. That's a big word. He writes really from his heart, and it's so real. It is so speaks to the human heart, and he's easy to read, but it's also so deep and so thought-provoking. But he's very fun. He peppers a lot of his fun personality into his writing, and so I just really highly recommend him as a read.
Thanks, guys.
I'll add this too. You're a brilliant storyteller.
Thank you.
I love that, and it's really interesting. I'm hearing you. You mentioned your brother and your joint venture there. That God has plans for family lines, and it's evident here, right? Telling a story, whether it's through podcasting or writing or other forms of media, and that as a core purpose to your family line and really your generational calling, how powerful that is. And to recognize that and then to cooperate with God in that and make that happen is a
Man,
purpose-driven life, which is important, man.
we have a saying that family is the long game. And
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, that generational aspect. I'm a as far back as I can go, I've been a part of pastors. My grandmother, I believe my great grandfather got, but it goes all the way back to my grandmother, my folks, and of course I was able to do
Yeah.
that. But whenever we find ourselves, my brother and we find ourselves in some big meeting pitching some project, we almost always talk about how we shared a bed. When they're asking, well, how did you guys? Well, we've been writing together since. I mean, we've shared a bed. From a very young age.
Wide-eyed.
It's pretty special to be able to do something with your family. That's huge to
Indeed.
us. Yeah, it's a big deal.
So I want to jump in here. Thank you for that. That's I think it's important for everybody to know. You obviously have a lot of experience with families, a lot of history. You're engaged in writing, telling, observing many stories. Tell us about what specific challenges are you seeing families face today in your orbit?
Yeah, and I never mentioned the part that for many years I was a family pastor, and so
Oh, yeah.
I did spend some time, even day in day out, meeting with families. We were at a pretty large church. This was 10 years ago, where I was carrying that grace for a few years there. But man, I think I'll start with this, and this is the
Yeah.
part that burns in me. I think we're in the middle of a rediscovery of cruciform love, or of this greater love that
Man.
Jesus walked in. That he boiled everything down to love, right? He boiled the law and the prophets, everything down to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, your neighbors, you love yourself. And then he described that there's no greater love. So now we've got it all boiled down to love. He says there's no greater love than that one would lay one's life down for a friend. Then he demonstrates that we're all his friends. So he brings us into this profound picture of this greater love. And then if you go, to me, the Rosetta Stone scripture for me is in 1 John 4, where we love because he first loved. And so there's this invitation to break everything down to love, and then realize that I can only give away what I possess. And so my job today is to wake up more convinced in the perfection of my Heavenly Father's love for me, as Jesus revealed it, this greater love that I can trust completely and wholly. And so for me, I believe there's been some aspects of the nature of the love of God that have been lost, that have been compromised with poor theology, with poor thinking about God, with the ideology of separation coming into the understanding of what love is like. And what we understand about who God is impacts what we understand about who we are, and what we understand about marriage, what we understand about family, what we understand about discipline, about how we interact, how we connect. And so I'm excited because I believe there's an awakening taking place, a repenting, if you will, taking place, a rethinking, a realigning with how God thinks about love, how our Father thinks about love, as Jesus revealed. And I see that as, and this is the roundabout way to answer the question, I see that as the key to the shift that's taking place in families. The biggest issue for me is marriages. It's the broken place in marriages that don't know how to model that kind of love for each other, if that makes sense. And you can only model what you have access to. So that's a long way around by saying I spent a lot of time with husbands and wives who did not know how to access intimacy. You can't have intimacy where there isn't trust. And if his love isn't always trustworthy, if it isn't always good, you can't trust him. And so I spent a lot of time with husbands and wives rediscovering, first and foremost, who God is and who they are to him. And then before they could have that connection with each other. That's a long way to answer the question, but
No, that's so good, and it just super resonates with my spirit. I was just praying this. We had a Kingdom House of Prayer yesterday, and that's exactly what is on Father's heart right now. Is will you receive my love? Because you cannot, apart from me, apart from receiving my love, you cannot love your spouse.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's so that's just very reaffirming to me, because that just confirms that is exactly what is on God's heart right now. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I agree.
I like what you said too. It's really, the family is a love incubator.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, from the garden, from design, that's one of our big lines too, is that it's restoring family to God's design, that whoever wins the family wins the culture
Yeah.
in the end. And his design was, hey, I'm going to walk with you in the afternoons, and we're going to live in love, a free giving and receiving of raw love.
Yeah.
And in that context, in that environment, in that incubator, you're going to be fruitful, reproduce me inside of flesh for generations, and multiply, fill the earth, and govern it. You're going to rule earth like heaven with me inside of your kids.
Yeah, true love.
Yeah.
Right? That's been, you said something a few minutes ago, Jason, about how we've lost this, and even through religion and through the church and teachings over the years. And we've just got so caught up in, that's a whole other can of worms. But if we're not doing it from love, for love.
Yeah. Listen, the most profound transformation in my life, I gave my heart to Jesus when I was 5. So I grew up, and what we're talking about, you guys, I know that you guys run at this, that healthy families is what changes the world. Like, this is the model. It's the model Jesus, when Jesus came, he didn't, honestly, it wasn't just about showing us who the Father was. It was about showing us what it looks like to live confident in this family dynamic, to live fully aware of his sonship, of his child, of his connection to the Father, revealing to us a Father and what it looks like to live confident as a child, as a son, as a human being, for goodness sake, on earth. And then doing everything from that. I'll get back to the story I was telling a minute, but we've got 33 years of God incarnated on the earth. For the first 30 years, we have 2 stories. Now, I'm a storyteller. I help people tell their memoirs. I spend at least 2 chapters on their formative years. I want to go find those stories that mark them. We have 4 gospels, and we have 2 stories of Jesus's formative years. It's when he was born, which is helpful to us, but really doesn't tell us much about how he is designed and thinks and moves, right? And then there's the who lost Jesus story, right? When he was 13 in the temple. And that's it. That's all we've got. So the gospel guys, they write 4 stories, or 2 stories in 4 gospels. And then we have everything else is after this significant moment where Jesus goes into the water, is baptized by his cousin John, goes under the water, comes up, the heavens open up, a thunderous voice of the Father says, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I'm well pleased." And I'm profoundly, I remember asking the question. I'm like, I get, this is my son. Okay, I got that. I grew up Sunday school. I got that. 5 years old, I gave my heart to Jesus, whom I love. Okay, I'm growing in that. We're always growing in that. With whom I'm well pleased. That part really, for a long time, I was, what is that about? Because I've lived in this context of trying to prove something to God. I was like, well, what's he pleased with? He hasn't done anything yet.
Never seems to be good enough.
Right. And I realized years ago, and this comes back to my story. I got saved when I was 5, but 15 years ago, I had a profound transformation, transformative encounter with the love of God that shifted everything from a place of his pleasure, from living from his love instead of for it. And so all of a sudden I was asking the question, what were you pleased with? And I realized Jesus got a well pleased before he did any of this stuff, meaning the only thing he was responsible for in those years was to awaken to his Father's love, become more sure in his Father's affection today than he was yesterday. And then all the stuff he did from his father's pleasure, not for it. And 15 years ago, that was the most transformative thing that took place in my life, because I got a shift on what it looks like to be a son. I have his pleasure already. I was born with it. When they handed me my daughter and put her in my arms, I didn't say, you're going to have some of my favor, some of my pleasure. Now we'll see how this goes. No, everything I have is yours. You're going to grow in an awareness and revelation of it.
Yeah.
And everything transformation to my life. And I'll finish with this. In that moment when I realized I don't get a say in how my father feels about me, he's already revealed that in Christ. All I can do is come into agreement and know it more today than I did yesterday. It changed how I was a husband to my wife, all those insecurities and desperations. And that goes back to what you're talking about. When I had a clear picture of how my father perceived me, I was now empowered to live in that place, to repent in that direction. And I remember calling my wife one day, just weeping, because I realized how much desperation and insecurity I had transferred over to her, because I had been living in that kind of relationship with God, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So
Anyway,
good.
Yeah.
I got on a preach. Sorry.
I love this. And you said something earlier. You said that marriages were a big issue that you saw, and that people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
They don't know who God is. In our work, and you probably, I don't know, I don't remember if you've read the book or not, but in our book, we really boiled it down to 3 problems in our family that really need to be solved. There's so much fruit of the problem. I mean, divorces and fatherlessness, motherlessness, and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
But the problem is not that. The problem's underneath that. And the problem is, number one, we don't know who we are. It's an identity drift, is what we call it, or who God is. And then we don't know, why we're here as a part of that too. And then our choice to not govern the family as God designed
or we've been governing out of who we believe God is, out of a religious construct instead of a relational construct.
Yeah.
And for us, it became so clear with us, I know we're preaching to the band here, and that's before time, there was family.
Yes.
Inside of time, God reveals himself as Father, source, and he can't, this is double negative, I know. He cannot not be family.
That's right.
So he creates family inside of time. And then after time's done with, it's a family, because that's who he is.
Yes.
And so everything that flows from him carries the DNA of family. We so resonate. Listen, we're going to jump to a quick break. When we come back, I want you to talk about what are some of the solutions that you're finding as you're facing these issues with families around you, and how are you partnering with God to let them know these things, like who they are, and lead them in experiences like you just described of the Father's love in that place.
Yeah.
So we come back, we'll hear some more. Here we go.
Right.
Are you struggling with parenting, unsure of how to raise your children in today's world? Has your marriage lost its spark and intimacy? Has your family drifted apart and lost connection? Do you feel it's too late for you? Do you want more for your family?
Our team of trained and certified family coaches will guide your family on a journey of healing, growth, discovery, and transformation, all based on Dr. Randall Bixby's best-selling book, The Family Legacy: Shaping Culture from the Inside Out.
After working with a family coach, our adult children notice our improved listening skills and express that they really felt heard by us more than ever.
Working with a family coach has empowered our kids to be able to fully communicate their thoughts and feelings. And the tools we've learned have given them the independence and confidence to know how to lovingly resolve conflict.
Our coaches will meet you right where you're at and help you learn practical strategies to shape your children's character, rebuild your marriage, and leave a lasting legacy.
Isn't it time to prioritize your family? If not now, when? Click the link below to schedule your free 30-minute consult with a family coach today.
All right, welcome back. We are talking today with Jason Clark from The Family Story. And before the break, I said, hey, when we come back, tell us about the kind of solutions that you're bringing to people that are facing these challenges.
First, I just watched that commercial. Man, I love what you guys are doing. I mean, it's so good, so important. I was watching it thinking, oh man, I spend a lot of I'm a relational guy, right? And so I probably would answer this question from a 6 foot on the ground answer instead of that 30,000 foot perspective. And we've talked first about marriages. You know, Karen and I, when we first got married, and I'm going to tell a story because that's what we do.
That's great.
Before we got married, she came to me and she said, "Oh, just by the way," and it was just an off the cuff comment. She said, "By the way, I took the word obey out of our vows." And I was like, "Well, okay, why?" And she proceeded to explain to me that it was only in the woman's vow, which I didn't realize, mostly because I'm a guy. I was 21. And then, you know, I just didn't pay attention to vows that closely. And secondly, and I'm a guy, so you know, apparently, you know, if I'd seen the guy had to say obey, I would have been paying closer attention. But when she told me it was only in the guy's vows, and I was like, well, yeah, of course we would take it out. Obedience, in the way that we understand it, is obligatory. It's an obligation. And, you know, I told you when I pastored, I'd have couples come in, and the guy was, he didn't know a lot of scripture, but he knew wives obey your husband. You know, I was like, well, do you know any other scriptures? You know,
submit one to another. Remember that?
And then I would say, well, do you know the whole context of that scripture? Because have you died for her? Because like that's actually what's in there. You know, like husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. So I don't know it. It's a marriage built on mutual consent, a marriage built on intimacy, in which I'm laying my life down for you and you're laying your life down for me. And when you have that foundation, then everything's about connection. And so my wife and I made decisions that put connection and intimacy and trust above everything else. And then in that foundation, parenting became about connection. And I remember early on, us coming to the realization that heart-to-heart connection was more important than anything else. And it became the thing that we endeavored to do once a day with each of our kids, that we would have a moment of connection, a moment of into me you see, I see you, you see me. I see who you are, heart-to-heart connection. And, you know, I have kids that are adulting now, stepping into adulting. We went through some tough seasons. My son, you know, those 13 to 16-year-old years, my wife says our son was easy year 1, year 2, and then difficult 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. She counts all the way up to 18. And then says 19, that he got sweetened again. But it's our joke. But I remember there would be nights where something went off in the house, and then our son I would come by the bedroom at night, and he's got his head on mom's lap, and she's just connecting with him. In the middle of that, now in hindsight, we learned things that he was going through that we didn't know about the time, that he hid. Yep. But that heart-to-heart connection took us through some storms. And I mean, right now, at midnight is bedtime. There's a routine in our house. My youngest 17-year-old goes in and lays on the bed with mom first. And then my 22-year-old lays his head on mom's lap. At 22, she scratches his head. I have to wait to go to bed sometimes for 45. But I think that on the ground level, once we understand that this is what our Father feels about us, that it's always heart-to-heart connection there, then creating a place of equality, true equality in your marriage, where you're laying your life down for one another. You're choosing to see, you're choosing to believe there for you, and vice versa in all things, and for us. And then that heart-to-heart connection, I think that's the kind of thing that sustains us, is transformative. But, you know, could be wrong, but that's what I think.
Well done.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that you guys, that is what you have cultivate at the core of your family dynamic, and it's God's design. Yeah. It's just design. He's connected with us, and this is a picture of healthy family, where irrespective of hormones and life experiences and external stimuli and all those things, that home is a place where you can lay your head down.
Yeah.
And be loved and be seen and learn how to receive. We talk about why marriages marriages are in trouble because they don't know how to receive love. And that's, for those of you listening,
That's
I
good.
hope this leaves you with a visual picture of what it looks like to receive love.
Mhm.
And if you didn't grow up in an environment where you were taught how to receive love, this is a picture of what it looks like. We've been given a model in where John is, often lays his head against the chest of Jesus and
Yeah.
hears his heartbeat, and that picture of just complete,
Yeah.
I am completely safe.
Yes.
I am completely seen, and and it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we jump to our part 2, I want to put a little button on this. We say that we believe this, that the wisdom of God is cloaked in simplicity. You got this family expert on here, and he's written all these books, and he's just telling me like the secret to everything is just connect with your heart, connect with your family. And I want to say yes, 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 yes. We to preach it like this, Jason, that it's about oneness. That's the language
Yeah.
of
That's it.
Scripture.
That's it.
Father with husband with wife, father with
Yeah.
son, us with
Yeah.
Jesus and the Father.
That's
And
it.
that oneness, that word means, I love this when you dig it out, it means mutually indwelling.
Come on, man. That's
It
it.
means nothing separating. So there's no
That's it.
part of me mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually that you don't have access to, Leslie,
Yeah.
and vice versa, or child.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that's separate. We are mutually indwelling, God and us together as one. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Where there is no
Yes, that's
separation.
exactly it. No separation. And
That is an
Go ahead.
answer. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that's the design. Go ahead.
No, that's it. When you realize there's no separation in God, there's no separation, and God is love, then that's the prayer Jesus prayed. I pray that they would be one, that they
Yes.
would know this oneness that I share with the Father, just as we share it, Father, they would too share it. And then what did he say? He said, when they know this oneness that we have with you and with each other, the whole world. That's what you get back to what you're talking about, man. It's the model. If we could know this union, then we're the model for the whole world. The whole world would know that you are my Father, that I am your Son, that you sent me, that this is the revelation of what it means to be human, of what it means to be fully present in the moment. It's what you're talking about. And it changes cultures. That's what we're talking about. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's
Get on it.
fine. You don't apologize. I'm just glad that a theologian is affirming what I'm thinking. That makes me feel a whole lot more secure. But hey, we're gonna transition to part 2 of the podcast, and we're now I guess transitioning to rethinking God with tacos. Take the driver's seat, man.
I get
Thank you for your
I
time
get to
there.
ask some questions. Did I answer enough of your questions? Did we get it?
I want to make sure. I mean, we've got it in the description, but if people want to connect with you, let's put that bow on it. If people are saying, "Man, I resonate. I want your books. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to know what your stories are." How do they get in touch with you?
Well, our website is afamilystory.org. We have lots of content, lots of articles there, and our podcast, Rethinking God with Tacos, is hosted there. And of course, you can find it on Spotify or iTunes or anywhere that podcasts are being hosted. I am at Jason Clark is on all the socials, so you can find me on Twitter, and then of course under my name, Jason L. Clark on Facebook. You can come over there, and we're having a party at a Facebook group called Rethinking God with Tacos. Look, we're convinced God is better than the last best thought we had about him. So there's some thoughts in there that are really, really good.
I like it.
But we're having a lot of fun over there. So you can come and join us there as well.
Awesome.
That's how you find it. And my books are available anywhere Amazon. Go to Amazon. That's the best way to grab my books. Leaving and Finding Jesus. God is not in control. The whole story is better than you think. Prone to Love. A few others as well.
Wonderful, man. I hope that our listeners will take that time and energy and go dig in, because there's a feast waiting there. Man, it's been great to have you with us. And that wraps up another inspiring episode of Transforming Families with Randy and Leslie. We hope that today's conversation has left you feeling empowered and equipped to take action.
Remember, transforming families begins with transforming ourselves. Let's be intentional, loving, and persevere. You're not alone. We're right here with you.
We believe Proverbs 24:3. Wise people are builders. They build families, businesses, and communities. Through intelligence and insight, their enterprises are established and endure.
Thanks for joining us today. We encourage you to stay connected with us on social media, join our email list, and learn more about our resources and classes at the Family School by visiting thefamilyreformationproject.com.
Remember to subscribe, share with your loved ones, and spread the word about transforming families. We'll see you on our next episode. And remember, whoever wins the family wins the culture in the end.